Well, excuse me, princess. That's what Nintendo may be saying to Universal, as it now looks like the NCU is falling apart. Yes, there's a lot of heart being put into the Mario Brothers sequel, but nothing else is being spun off at this time for an animated cinematic universe that could have inclined moviegoers to rush to cinemas all over the world. Instead, it's a live-action Zelda trilogy that's going to Sony, shaking up Hollywood. Hello, folks. Welcome back to the place that continues explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. And by the way, some of the stuff we'll be diving in today was first heard over on the Patreon, www.patreon.com/WDWPro, where we leaked out much of what is now being reported across the webs. And we were happy to do that, bring that exclusively there. Folks, we often scoop here as well, but if you want even more exclusive content, go over to the Patreon. All right, click the like button. Let's dive into the Zelda news. It's huge, and we'll do it right now. The Super Mario Bros. Movie 2 must be a success before the universe is expanded. This is by Matthew Wilkinson. It says, due to the popularity of the franchise, there was a mix of excitement and nerves regarding the release of the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 2023. Goes on to talk about how well it did. How well did it do? Well, it was the #2 animated film of all time at the box office. The fact that the movie is now available on Netflix will only increase its popularity. Fans who enjoyed it the first time can now rewatch it and pick out fun hidden details, yada, yada, yada. This article goes on to talk about how the Super Mario Bros. Movie 2, the sequel, has been confirmed. It's coming out in 2026. But there's nothing else. None of that NCU that we talked about here on the Pro Channel back in the early days. Movies like an animated Zelda, movies like Donkey Kong, movies like even, heck, Super Punch-Out. Well, guess what, folks? It looks to me, it looks like to others, that our reporting since then has been accurate, and maybe Nintendo punched out Universal with this move right here. Out of GameSpot and coming out today, no, it is not a joke. The Legend of Zelda film could be a trilogy. Nintendo reportedly is going all in on its eventual Legend of Zelda live-action adaptation, and it wants to go to a trilogy before the first one is even made. VGC, this is by Land Pitts, VGC is reporting that industry insider Daniel Richtman claimed that The Legend of Zelda would be the first of a potential trilogy. Richtman also mentioned in the same paid subscription Patreon post that the potential trilogy would have a 6-year plan in which all significant acting roles would be signed on for the entire run. The first film is scheduled to shoot in New Zealand, according to the production list, a tracking service run by the Film and Television Industry Alliance. Right now, the Legend of Zelda movie is set to film from 2025 to 2026 with a 2027 release. Now, my understanding, and panel, correct me if I'm wrong on this, my understanding is that this is still going to be Sony, right? And that Shigeru Miyamoto has had a major impact on this. The way I see this playing out is they had a deal with Universal, and Universal was all in. Illuminations was all in on delivering an NCU, and it looks like Nintendo said, no, we want to do our own version of Lord of the Rings, and it's going to be Zelda. It's going to be live action. It's going to be big, and we're going to work with a Japanese studio. We're going to work with Sony. And I think that has scuttled everything except for the Mario Brothers sequel. I think the NCU has fallen apart because that's not what Nintendo wanted. And that might be what the West wanted, because that would have been a new kids version of the MCU, maybe even beyond. But I think that's gone. I think now we're getting a trilogy Zelda, and I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. Panel, what say you? And audience, let us know.
Let's remember why these things become trilogies. They become trilogies because A, they've got more story than they can fit in a movie, but more importantly, B, in the case of Lord of the Rings, they shoot them all continuously. It saves money rather than having to go back, bring everybody back, start over again, rebuild the sets, et cetera, et cetera. So if they're doing this in New Zealand in particular, that's why.
Well, and if they're saying this is a 6-year plan, then that's definitely what they're going to do if they're going to be coming out every other year, basically.
Well, the other thing is shoot them in a year and a half and be done with it as far as the principal photography is concerned.
Sorry, I think I cut you off there, Marvin, and I didn't mean to as well.
I think this is a terrible idea. I think this is an awful idea. I think that giving it to Sony immediately cut the legs out from any kind of shared universe for Nintendo that people actually wanted. I think not making it animated and making it live action means that you're marketing it to adults and not to kids, because a live action Ganon is going to be scary looking. Live action Gorons are going to be horrifying. Live action Zoras are going to be terrible. I think this is just ill-conceived. I think they're going for the Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones crowd when they should be going for the Super Mario Brothers movie crowd, and they're not doing it. They're leaving a ton of money on the table, and no matter what they make Link like, everyone is going to hate it because it's not their Link. Link has always been a silent blank slate protagonist because he is an avatar for the player. This is not going to go over well. I'm calling it right now. And the second they start casting, everyone's going to hate it.
Well,
unless they cast an adorable little white boy who looks like an elf.
The next 5 movies from Illuminations, right? If they'd done Donkey Kong, if they'd done Mario Brothers 2, you've got Epic Universe. Like, if they had, the next 5 films would have been in the top 10 for every single time, the top 10 animated grossing films. So Nintendo is setting that to the side. And it might be because Nintendo is the king of the gaming industry, and the gaming industry is 14 times the size of the film industry. So they might just look at it and be like, we don't care. This is what Mr. Miyamoto wants to do. This is his vision. He wants to make a Lord of the Rings Zelda send-off as the magnum opus of his career. This is what he wants. It's his passion project. Now, I think Marvin's criticism and critiques are absolutely spot on. This is going to be very difficult to pull off because Link is largely silent. That can't be the case in this.
You know, I'm actually kind of hopeful for this myself, and I understand the criticisms, and I can see where they come from. But filming them all at once, that does make me think that they might be going with the rumors of a younger actor for Link, and so they'll be able to put a lot on him. We don't get a lot of stories from a younger perspective. We'll generally get teenagers who are pretty much adults anyways these days. I think the stakes that are in a Legend of Zelda game, you know, if it's someone who is small and learning new skills and getting new items in order to defeat an insurmountable task, there's a lot of lore here to be mined. If they're doing 3, which is, you know, that's the magic number over there at Nintendo, you know, that's how many phases are in each of their boss battles. That's generally what they aim for when they're doing you know, Legend of Zelda stuff. There's 3 goddesses, there's 3 medals, there's the Triforce, of course. I think that if they know where they're going, I see hope in this one.
I'd say the hardest part about talking about this is not going, well, excuse me, princess.
Oh.
Hey, Kevin, the only thing that gives me hope and pause in this is Mr. Miyamoto. And listen, when he's involved, I mean, this guy is unparalleled in entertainment.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen, I don't think this is bad news. I think Nintendo hit the brakes on Universal because Nintendo didn't want to deal with the wokeness and didn't see the shift probably coming that everybody else knew was there, right? They got a lot of pushback on the original story, and they had to fight to get the movie that we got. But on the other side of that, I think people have kind of forgotten that if you do it right, kids like to be scared. Doctor Who was a juggernaut for a reason. You had scary monsters. You know, He-Man. Listen, Skeletor is a guy without a face. You have a creature called Beastman. Things can be scary. If you had told me that Nintendo had sold the rights to Sony and that this was going to be a Sony joint, I would go, this stinks, right? This stinks. But no, this is Nintendo working with Sony to tell a Nintendo story handled by Nintendo people for the Nintendo audience. Nintendo is a family company. They understand how to talk to adults. They understand how to talk to kids. I think a 6-year plan to jam out 3 movies is, it's a solid plan because unlike the second Mario Brothers movie, these movies do need to come out quicker to strike while the iron is hot. They've taken a really long time to get to Mario Brothers 2, and it's a little bit of a risk. It's a little bit of a risk. Like, temperatures may have cooled. Again, quality should win out in the end, but we also know, like, we could have a really stupid season where all these films decide to jam out 90 movies in a 3-week span, and Mario gets lost in the shuffle. That is a possibility. But I say have a little faith. Have a little faith. Again, we forget the 80s were a thing. There were a lot of sword and sandals. The never-ending story. That was scary and had deep emotional trauma. For 80s kids watching it. Who wants to watch their beloved pet horse drown in a lake of sorrow and then have to go talk to a terrifying wolf monster? But guess what? It's a beloved movie. There is room for risk taking, and frankly, that's what the theaters need right now. The magic of the movies is gone. I love superheroes to death. The superheroes have killed the magic. We need an experience. Zelda is potentially the last great hope to get people excited about going to the movies again.
We'll see. I think it's going to be very easy to make Zelda a girl boss, and I think she's going to be on the entire journey with Link. They're not going to save her for the end like she is in all the games. I think this is going to be Zelda's story, not Link's story. Sorry, Ron, I cut you off.
Wait a minute.
Japanese company working with the Japanese company.
That's what I was going to say, Kevin.
This isn't a Japanese company selling the rights. This is a Nintendo controlling the Nintendo product. This is
Nintendo going to Sony and not to Universal because they're saying we're going to be in charge of this thing.
We'll see.
Yeah, so they're not going to maybe want the girl boss. They're specifically going to Sony instead of Universal to make sure that it's not in the woke umbrella of movies. And it's going to be interesting for somebody like me because I am not a Zelda game fan, and what I mean by that is I actually became
the
very
water dungeon. You're saying the water dungeon did you in?
Yes.
Well, always does.
My point is that I was on the outside when it came to things like Tomb Raider. I wasn't a Tomb Raider game fan, and then I think it was the Angelina Jolie movies. Now, people may not like those movies, but as a person who never played the game, I thought the movies were okay. Not great, by the way. They're not great movies, but they're popcorn entertainment movies. I'm hoping that for something like Zelda, I want it to be very good because it's going to affect things like Epic Universal and the Universal Parks going forward. And for me as a parks person, that's kind of where I see this going is I really want my stuff. Like, I'm not a fan of Harry Potter movies. I love the freaking park stuff that they've done with Harry Potter. And that's what I'm hoping happens with this.
But that's my question. We've heard all these rumors about how Zelda was going in where Atlantis was, or Zelda was going to go in on the expansion pad at Epic. Does this delay all that because we don't want to do something that's in contravention of what the live action is that's coming out later?
Well, this gets into a position where we know more than what we can say, and that's to protect some sources. I will say that I don't think this is going to budge the plans that have been shifted. And that's all I can say. Jonas, is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
I think we're safe in saying that.
Look, first of all, I think everything related to Mario is going to be successful. I think they're just going to prove out that they can kind of chase that down forever. Universal wants to lean into that. It's good for their theme parks. It's good for Nintendo. It's good for everybody to get what they want.
Good for the whales.
It is, and it's also very good for us as the fans. And look, I'm with you. I think one of the reasons they shifted where this production would go is because they believe that Sony will tell the story the way they want it to be told. And I think we saw a little bit of maybe that touch of woke at the end of or at various points throughout the original Mario Brothers film, where you could see the princess was kind of girl bossed a little bit, which was a little frustrating to somebody like me. Now I'm going to get pushback from some of you, but pretty sure it's a little bit of girl boss in there. And I don't think there's any room for that in Zelda. Zelda is Link's story. Go ahead.
The only pushback I'm going to give to you guys is we're really putting a lot of faith here in the studio that created Morbius and Madam Web. and Spider-Man 3.
I was going to
I-
mention all
Okay,
of those.
but at the same time, when they're doing somebody else's work, doing somebody else's bidding, they do a good job. Hence the Spider-Man No Way Home, and the Spider-Mans before what we're about to get, which is the Marvel Disaster Spider-Man.
There you go. Folks, that's where we'll leave it for now when it comes to the Zelda trilogy, but the NCU looking like it's in critical crisis, perhaps the NCU in the ICU, and it's all too bad because Marvel is looking sad. People want and need a cinematic universe. Nintendo could be that, but maybe it's Sonic over at Paramount that will be what we need instead. It's always sad when one of these video ends, and yet it is the beginning of the wait for the next one to land. 4 times a day right here on the Pro Channel. And by the way, there's plenty more on our partner channels. That Park Place, That Pod Place, That Game Place. And go check out the original music we have on stations like Vacation Radio. We'd love to have you, love to entertain you. At least we'll do a better job than some of the current entertainment companies. Folks, like, share, subscribe, and you know what? Drop a comment right on down below. Share this out anywhere you go on social media. And until the next time, we have the honor, the pleasure of getting to spend time with you when you choose to invite us into your day to add the value that we hope to bring your way. We ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.